So I want to bring in Mario Gallucci. He is a criminal defense attorney, and he is here to break this down for us. There are a couple of cases that we're following, but this, as a mom of three, is one that I have been following for since it happened about 2.5 years ago. I know many people who have found themselves with postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. I don't know anybody personally who had postpartum psychosis, but when you hear what this woman went through and how many times she requested help, it really is just such a heartbreaking case. So kind of take me through, Mario, if you can. We heard opening statements from both sides today, and the husband took the stand. What should the jurors be listening for? Because there's going to be so much emotional testimony, and I would think that they would have to look through that to get to some of the facts here.
Good evening, Teresa. How are you? They're going to go through it's going to come down to the battle of experts. So today you had something very unique. The prosecution called the husband, I believe his name is Patrick, and the defense is probably going to call the husband Patrick. The husband testified today about her behaviors prior to that she needed to be medicated, that she was going through therapy. And these are all things that the defense is going to look for to get a not guilty by reason of insanity. It's an NGRI defense. And once they do that, then they're going to put on experts. And the experts are going to testify as to the psychosis and how it affected her.
One thing that I thought was really interesting as I was listening to the opening statements on behalf of her defense attorney, he said you cannot look at Lindsay Clancy today in a wheelchair because she is paralyzed from that suicide attempt and think, did this woman do it? You have to take yourself back and transport yourself to the moment at which the psychosis, he says, was affecting her. And the prosecution argues there was motive. She sent her husband out. So I guess my question to you from a legal standpoint is, how legally difficult is it to prove criminality, to prove that there was an intent to kill and not almost an overtaking of her emotional and mental state?
So there's two things here that would go against the not guilty by reason of insanity. The premeditation by sending her husband out to get, I believe it was prescription medication and some takeout food, which the prosecution is now arguing gave her the window to commit this crime. The defense is going to say that while she was in the grips of this psychosis, that's what the psychotic Clancy decided to do. The other thing is after she committed these crimes, she then attempted to kill herself. So that actually demonstrates a consciousness of guilt. So those are two things that the defense is going to have to overcome in order to get to a not guilty by reason of insanity. And I don't think that they are that much of a burden to overcome. I think that the doctors will testify to the fact that, the psychosis would cause her to do what she did prior to the murders and then try to kill herself. If she's in the grips of that psychosis, they're going to find a doctor that will testify to that's what the effect would be.
I think about how we treat women in this country postpartum, the way that we handle women as they're returning back to work, all of it, right? And I think to myself, if she was somebody who had simply said she had schizophrenia or she had another form of mental illness, or she was a soldier returning from war and had PTSD and had ended up in the exact same situation in which she killed her children, because there's no dispute that she killed her children, would this case be viewed any differently?
I think you're right, Teresa. Postpartum psychosis syndrome is becoming more and more relatable in the modern day. I've been doing this for over 36 years. There are very few cases I can remember in my career that deal with this. I've tried NGRI cases. They always dealt with what you just said. They always dealt with somebody who was a paranoid, schizophrenic, or manic. Very rarely in the past have you seen anybody try a case of this type like this. This is going to have ramifications going forward on postpartum syndrome. It's a psychosis. It's a real disease that people suffer from and should be treated for.
I know that they cannot look on Facebook forums and social media to get the collective view of women everywhere, but I'm on those sites. I am a mom. And the amount of women that I have seen post comments about this case saying, I am Lindsay Clancy, except I did not kill my kids. I found myself in the depths of despair. I thought that I was having suicidal ideations or whatever it was. And they didn't have anybody to turn to or anybody that understood them. And so when I think about those stories that I'm reading online or personally that I've heard from people, and I think about how many times this woman reached out for help, she checked herself into a mental health facility and she was told she was okay. She was prescribed 30 medications and told she was fine. So I do hope that that changes the way that people are treated on behalf of the medical personnel, that they ask for help. Because it's really, any way you slice this one, it is so insanely, incredibly tragic. Before I let you go tonight, Mario, if it's okay, I just want to quickly mention another case that, of course, we were all following, which was the Idaho murders. There was something that came out today about Bryan Kohberger. So we know that a year ago he accepted and was sentenced for a guilty plea, 4 consecutive life sentences, I believe. So today he says that he wants it overturned. What's that about?
So it bored him. He's in prison and he finally says to himself, wow, this is going to be the rest of my life. He filed it pro se, meaning that no lawyer filed this. He put it together himself. He's saying that he was represented by ineffective assistance of counsel, that counsel advised him to take a plea, that counsel ignored evidence. I mean, specifically, I believe one of the young ladies had some hair in her hand that did not match his. He's saying that his attorney did nothing about it, and he wants to have his plea, it's not even a conviction, his plea overturned. Very, very, very unlikely that'll happen. Only happens in 2 ways. You need to prove that his counsel was ineffective, and that is far from the truth, or you have to argue that at the time you took the plea, he did not have the right state of mind. He was either on prescription medication, on illicit drugs, or he was intoxicated at the time he took the plea. Other than that, this is merely, him getting a free trip out of the prison to court, change his circumstances, get different food, what have you.
But if I remember correctly, he stood up in front of the judge and detailed what he did to them. The judge asked him specifically, how did you kill these women? And he told them.
And by the way, Teresa, all of that, and it's never going to happen, but if it did get overturned, everything he said in court would be allowed to be used against him. He said that all under oath, without a cooperation agreement, without a plea agreement that said anything about his right to appeal. So everything he said in court that day can be used against him if he was to win, which will not happen.
Yeah. And as I understand it, Mario, there are extensive safeguards in place, not only when it comes to training, but redundancies in the court system, especially in a case of this magnitude, to ensure that this doesn't happen, that there is no ineffective counsel, that he wasn't, that his rights weren't explained to him the right way or anything like that.
So it's called an allocution. And during the allocution, the judge goes through everything, including, are you currently under the care of a doctor? Are you currently taking prescription medication? Are you intoxicated right now? Did you have any alcohol? And then the judge always says, are you happy with the representation given to you by your lawyer? The answer is always yes. And then they ask more questions. And then the final question that every judge will ask is, are you completely satisfied with the representation that your lawyer gave you? And they do that twice in an allocution. So for him to turn around and say the counsel was ineffective, it's going to go nowhere.
Okay. Mario, if people want to find you, if they need your services, where can they do so? How can they get you?
The Gallucci Law Firm, Mario at GallucciLawFirm.com.
All right. Mario Gallucci, we really appreciate you explaining all of this tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa. Have a good night.
You too.